Welcome in to the DNVR Avalanche Podcast presented by Bet365. We got AJ, we got Biggie, we got Rudo, all coming to you live on an off day, and we're all playing a little bit hurt today, maybe. We got some pain, we got some under the weather, but you know what? We're out here, we're showing up, we're doing the job, so don't ever tell us we ain't out here doing the work. Today, I don't know how deep we'll get into this because, let's be honest, it's January and trade deadline is not until March, but it's never too early to talk about trade targets potentially for the Avs, especially given they've already made a couple of moves this season. So we're going to take a look at a couple of those options and see if we like any of them. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. Before we actually jump into potential targets, though, I did want to talk a little bit about some of the guys the Avs have already traded for, which is kind of what inspired this. If they're willing to make moves already, we might as well take a look at what some of the other moves they can make are. Obviously, you have the goaltenders. I don't think there's really a whole lot to say there. Blackwood has been great. Wedgwood was very good when he was healthy and probably won't be out too long. And then you have Parssinen, which I'm curious to get your guys' thoughts on Parssinen so far in the limited time that he's played with the Avs.
I thought it was a bad start. It obviously his first game I thought was a train wreck, and then after that, I thought he settled in. I really liked him last night. That I thought obviously he lands that assist, but good hard work. The skating looks like it's fitting in. He was touching the puck pretty frequently. I'm a big fan.
I like it. I think it's better than what they had or what they have. You know what I mean? And you're talking about something simple. You know what I mean? Like, so it's not. What I mean, the trade was simple. You know what I mean? AJ, you look very comfortable, like Cale Makar's brother, like Makar says. But yeah, I just thought it was a simple get. I like it. A third round pick for me is. The odds of a player being a third round pick in the NHL are probably a guy like Parssinen in my book. You know what I mean? Usually there's home runs, of course, but I'm talking about for usually what it ends up being. It's probably a guy like that. So I like it. I like this game. I think he's only going to get a little bit better and better and better. It's intimidating to get into a lineup, especially up front like that with the Avalanche. And I think he's going to be more than fine. And I agree. It was a little slow start and then got better and better and better. And I think yesterday getting the hat, it sounds stupid, but getting the dumb hat that they wear, and sometimes it helps break through the the jitters and the nerves, and so they'll be good. They'll be good. He's fine.
Okay. I'm curious about where you see the value of this trade still a little bit. A third round pick it's not the biggest asset in the world, but it's a legitimate asset. And you're talking about a guy in Parssinen who we all feel like he had a pretty good game the other night. He picks up his first point. He only played 8.5 minutes. Does that number need to go up to really feel like the Avs got good value out of this trade? Or are you okay with the guy playing 8.5 minutes a night for a third?
No, it has to continue to go up, but I think that number will go up as long as they continue to fill out and solidify their bottom of their forward lineup. It's no offense to Yuri Anala and Ty Fellhaber, but I don't think that those guys are guys that you want in a playoff series. And right now, I don't even know if Juuso Parssinen is a guy wanting a playoff series. There's a lot of proving themselves that needs to be happening, and with Parssinen, the third round pick, it's still rich. The Avs paid as much for the 3 years of RFA after this as they did for the player that he is today. That was part of the value and why they were willing to give up the third. But he needs to prove that they want to keep him for those 3 years. He needs to prove that he is worthy of being a guy that they want around. Otherwise, that value is always going to be too rich. So there's a lot of work still left for him to do to live up to that price.
What's the percentage right now of third round picks that have a career in the NHL?
Yeah, it's low. It is. It's really low. But
what's
Parssinen's future in the NHL if his play doesn't take a serious leap from what it has been the last year? It's That's why the third round pick was probably a little higher than I would have liked. Had it been a fourth, I would have shrugged and said, "Cool." As a third, I'm kind of like,
Oh, you
But-
guys are the best.
you know, that's nitpicking.
I know.
I mean,
It's all good.
It is
like
what
I
it
said,
is.
for me, he is an NHL player in my book. I think he's going to become a yearly NHL player. Like obviously, the last couple of years, it's been up and down a little bit. I don't know. I feel he's a player. All of a sudden, I'm freezing. I'm not sure what's going on here.
we do have to get there still. A third round pick for a guy who plays 7 minutes a night, 8 minutes a night for you doesn't feel great in the moment. In 2 months, he could be playing 12, 14 minutes a night for the Avs. Who knows?
Realistically, you want him to get at least the target should be like 11.
Projected as a third line scorer was always the plan here. I think, given his skill set, it was pretty easy to see how that's what the Avs wanted out of him. AJ, you kind of mentioned it, and Chat mentioning it a little bit too. When you look at the 3 trades that the Avs have made in this season, Scott Wedgwood had an extra year on the deal. Mackenzie Blackwood, they ultimately get a significant extension done a couple of weeks after trading for him. And then Parson and an RFA, which the Avs remain in control over for the next handful of years. They've really done a bunch of moves that have looked not just to try and push for this season, but for their future as well. As they step into January, as you move towards that trade deadline, is this still a situation where they can maybe hedge their bets a little bit and target other guys that they can hold on to for a couple of years? Or is it kind of time for the Avs to transition into rental mode?
Ideally, right? You'd love to get a guy that's got some RFA time
Of
still
course.
left. Like when they traded for Lehkonen, he was an expiring deal, but it was a restricted deal. He still had one more RFA year left. So, a guy like that would be great. I would love if they could get another one of those types of guys. Are they going to? I mean, look, this list that we're about to talk about does not include a whole lot of guys that fit that category. So, it's probably time, like just to switch to the good old UFA list.
I agree. I think it's going to be the UFA list for all the reasons, because I don't think they're at that stage like 2 years ago to give am I gone right now? Or there we go.
You're back.
A Baron and a second rounder. Sorry, a second rounder. I don't think they're going to give up that kind of capital to go get those types of players. I do believe. Again, we'll get into it, but I do believe they're going to look for rentals, the Duames and Trennans of the world, like last year. You know what I mean? And then, probably a forward, probably a D. Give and take. Last year, they all surprised us, with multiple guys up front, but then it was followed by Logan O'Connor having surgery out for the season, right? So who knows? It all depends on Miles Wood. All depends on all that type of stuff for the number of bodies they might add. You know what I mean? So,
I mean, let's have a little bit of that conversation. I know we've talked about this before, but realistically, where do we expect the Avs to add? Because at this point, assuming Wedgwood is reasonably okay, which it sounds like the injury is not that serious, their goaltender position is pretty much set. You added Parson into the depth of your forward core. When you're looking at potential rentals or whatever you want to call trade deadline moves, do the Avs need to add 2, 3, just 1? And where do you think they need to add the most?
I think the easiest place to look at what should be a priority for Colorado is center. Right now, they're rocking without a 4C at all. Parker Kelly has done an admirable job at moonlighting as their third line center, but the offense is just far too low for him to continue on as the 3C. So I think that's probably where I'm starting. Is I'm looking. This has been a great audition for Parker Kelly as the 4C. Having him be your fourth line center now, given what he's shown already this year, great. I'm all about this. But you really want a guy that's going to give you more than a 16 points pace or whatever Parker Kelly is currently on. Like it's been way too low on offense. So they need another one. And this insistence that Ross Colton continue on at wing, I think, is if they can find another third line center, that's great. But if they can't, then I think Ross Colton, if they can, it's easier to find a wing than a center, is what I'm saying. And if they can,
Sure.
if they can find another wing, you could drop Ross Colton back down at center, and that would be fine. If they can find a center, great. But you know you're going to have to pay a premium because that guy's going to be a center, versus getting a wing and moving Ross Colton back down there.
Yeah, I just think they feel Ross as a winger, and I think Bednar loves him as a winger. I don't think their plan. That's just me. Again, I don't think their plan. Again, you have a plan until you get punched in the face, right? And then you have to figure it out. But I don't think their plan is to put Colton. I think in the middle. I think it's going to be to keep him on the wing, and I think they'll go and get. We can get into some names later, but I get a center, and I do believe I agree with you. My guy Parker Kelly, I love him, but the production is pretty thin. I totally agree with you. More down, he's still going to find his minutes on the PK. He's still going to find his minutes, you know what I mean, as a 4C. But I do believe that they need someone, and I know we mentioned the word center for all the reasons, but wow, they need someone to get big draws. In the playoffs, you don't want the Avalanche to get hurt by a big draw loss, or, I'm a firm believer in that. Right now, I don't feel that they're well equipped for it. I don't think it's really bit them, but I do believe down in the spring at the big dance, it's a little different ball game sometimes, and I think that can be something that can hurt them a little bit.
I do want to talk about some other things, but there are a couple of guys that aren't necessarily trade targets that we can talk about in this situation here. Specifically, Jonathan Toews. Thoughts on his existence, trying to make a comeback? Some people have linked him potentially to the Avalanche. Any interest there, or no?
To me, the main interest of Jonathan Toews is that he's free. There's no asset that they have to move. It's the Zach Parise thing all over from last year, and Parise did what you could have reasonably asked him to do. He was pretty good until he had to get overplayed. But my interest is pretty limited. He was pretty bad at the end of his NHL tenure, and he had the one outlier season, and then. But the last several years of his career, he was not a good NHL player anymore. And is he suddenly going to disappear for 2 years, come back and buck that trend? I don't. Look, he was great. He was great at faceoffs, right? That was He was always really, really good at that.
Faceoff guy.
Always really good in that part of the ice. But the leadership is great. The intangibles are great. The face-off ability is great. Can he do anything else for you? And the fact that you don't have to trade for him. All of those things should appeal to the Avalanche. But is he really going to be a better option than trading for one of the guys we'll talk about and then moving Parker Kelly down there? To me, that's a tough sell. If you're going to make that signing, you need to do it before the trade deadline in case it goes bust.
I mean, I'll just add a couple more things to it. You got to know where he's at. Obviously mentally, and you got to know where he's at physically. You're talking about multiple seasons now, right? This is his second full year out, correct? So, I mean, you're getting into the Landy territory of have not played, right? And it's, if you think you're getting the Toews that the Cup years, in Chicago, you're probably obviously mistaken, right? You know what I mean? Because then, but on the flip side of things, just to be quick to wrap Jonathan Toews is, if he's making a comeback, well, it's very simple. Of course, he's going to look at the Avalanche. Of course, he's going to look at Winnipeg because they're a good team. That's where he's from. Of course, he's going to look at the Edmonton Oilers. Of course, he's going to look at places like that. Why wouldn't he? And then it's for you to figure out where he's at mentally. And where he's at physically with his game. You know what I mean? Like, obviously, he hasn't really skated, but you can always bring a guy in like they did with Parise last year. It's not complicated. You bring him in and see where he's at. I mean, if the guy is like, an ankle bender, can't skate anymore. It's easy to see, you know what I mean? And you're like, whoa, buddy, you're way off. Or, or you're looking good. And you're right. Intangibles, the face-offs, the leadership, and someone, and it's going to be cheap. I don't care what people say. It's going to be cheap. It's not a money thing. It's not a money thing. It's just, let's go and have a chance to finish it right, for him, right? Because he doesn't feel, he feels he got cheated.
Well, we'll see how the Taves situation develops. A couple of other things I want to get into before we talk about our actual trade targets that we have on our lists. But first, we got to pay a few bills. So we are brought to you by Breckenridge Brewery, the official beer of DNVR. Make sure you go get them, the official craft beer, at least, I should say. Make sure you go get with them on breckbrew.com. You can see a bunch of amazing merch, and you can find them anywhere in the U.S. at your local liquor store with a Breck Brew beer locator. They have dozens of flavors, something for everyone. So make sure you're getting in with them and find a beer that you like. Anything from a IPA to a Avalanche Amber, a simple beer that I like, or a bunch of flavors in the middle, whether it's a Palisade Peach or their winter ales, whatever you might be into with Breck Brew. Make sure you get with them. And when you go to the DNVR bar, you get $2 off a Breck Brew during Avs games. So go get some right now at your local liquor store and swing by the DNVR bar later. Breckenridge Brewery, again, the official craft beer of DNVR. And once you got a beer in your hand, I don't know, maybe it'll help you make some bets real quick. Get with Bet365 today and use the DNVR 365 code when you sign up. You get $150 in bonus bets for betting $5 on anything. Jump in with them. Of course, you can have a ton of fun with Avs games. We always have bets on our pregame, but you can bet on the playoffs for the NFL. You can bet on the Broncos, although I'll admit I probably am betting on them to lose, but you can still bet on that. You can hedge your bets, whatever you want to do with it with Bet365. Again, be sure to use that DNVR365 code when you do. And of course, when you gamble with Bet365, you must be 21 or older, physically located in Colorado. And if you or someone you know has a gambling problem, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER today. Second period of the DNVR Avalanche podcast. We don't have to get very far into this one. It's safe to say the Avs are not going to be involved in this JT Miller, Elias Pettersson situation.
I don't think.
Safe?
I mean, I'll jump.
But from my perspective, I just don't understand how they make the cap work. So I don't see how they get there. But
no, I don't think they're in there at all. That's just my gut. I don't see where.
Let me propose something to you real quick so I can derail this train real hard.
All right.
What if, let's just say, okay, because especially with Pettersson, I don't know how that one would make sense because you're going to go and get him. He is having a problem with JT Miller bullying him and being mean to him. And then you're going to get him and bring him in where Nathan MacKinnon is going to do the exact same thing to him. It doesn't make sense to me. That's silly. But with JT Miller, what, they're going to just bully each other? Like, you might end up with too many alpha assholes in your locker room if you put them together. But if you have at $8 million for a 2C that is producing the way that he has the last couple of years, who brings the kind of competitiveness and edge that they have not had since Nazem Kadri left for Calgary, like, he brings all of those elements there, and he's a much better player than Kadri was. Even in Kadri's Uber year at the end there, Miller is a better offensive player. Is it really so far-fetched to think that they would, say, move like a Nichushkin and Middlestat?
Yes.
To make that money work? You think that's far-fetched? What if, part of this equation, what if Gabe Landeskog is healthy by March?
Then you definitely don't have the cap room.
But that's why you move both of those guys out.
Sure. Like, I don't...
All right. I'm getting to some hating-ass energy, so I'll move on.
Conceptually, taking two players off of your top six to add one player to your top six, unless that player is Wayne friggin' Gretzky, you're bad. No, don't do it.
I don't think they're in on it. I know what you're saying. I'm not disagreeing, or I think you're starting to touch different types of things. I just don't think they're going there. And you know what? If they go there, then I was wrong, But I don't think they're even
I think
looking at it.
It's too hard to do. In reality, it's too hard to do.
Look, if you were having a conversation of Middlestat for Miller plus whatever assets you have to give up to get the deal done, I'm willing to at least entertain it. I do think I agree with E. This is not the first time we've heard things about JT Miller being not a great locker room situation. So I don't know if you really want to risk that. But as far as...
I mean, I agree. He left the team this year. I mean, he left the team, and I'm not making fun of leaving the team. I'm saying there's something not right there right now. I mean, there's something, clearly. He's an excellent hockey player. I've always loved him, and obviously the Rangers, and loved him, and Team USA back then, like even World Juniors, right back then, whatever it was. I've always liked him, but obviously there's just something off right now. I don't know what it is, and again, we're not privy to those conversations, and but whoever's gonna make the trade for him is gonna try to find out exactly what is happening. I don't want to hear that. Oh, they don't like each other. Like, really? I don't like Rudo, and I don't like AJ, but I still go to work every day. I'm just kidding. It's a joke. Lighten up.
No, he hates us for sure.
He bullies us all the time. He's so mean to us.
Somebody's gonna clip that and just be like, Eric Lacroix hates DNVR.
Yeah, I know. I know. Probably. I'm saying the other... I mean, whatever. There's something fishy there. Whatever it is.
I wouldn't do it. I'll put it to you that way. And the other side of this conversation is, what assets are we actually looking at that the Avs are willing to move on from? Whether that be stuff in their lineup, or if you look beyond that, it's a little bit thin, if we're honest about it. Colorado picks wise, they have only a second round pick from this year. They have a couple of fourths, but you're getting into later assets at that point. They have their first in 2026, and they have their first and second in 2027, but no second or third from 2026, and really no third from any of the next three drafts. So you're a little bit thin on actual draft picks for Colorado. Not empty, but you have to be wise about your asset usage here.
You're pretty close to empty, especially since the picks we made. You're like, we really need to keep Cal Ritchie, Ilya Nabokov, and Mikhail Gulyayev. You really need to keep them. Yeah.
Would it feel a little more open if you had not lost Sean Behrens for the season?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, you'd be a touch closer to it. Yeah.
All right. Fair enough. Just wanted to place out the realities that the Avs, asset-wise, don't have a ton. If you're talking about going out and making potential big splashes, it may have to be something crazy like AJ trading 2 roster players for JT Miller.
Look, I go hard in the paint. I don't play.
You are the guy who has 8 to 10 player trades on the be a GM mode we do, so it's true.
I'd be all over you in the paint right now because you got pizza all over you, and I'd be friggin' jumping on you for those pieces of pizza.
And then
I had to come back to Connecticut for the good pizza.
Yeah, well, don't like the best 10 pizza places in the country are all within 10 miles of you or something ridiculous.
Yeah.
Must be nice.
He stamps one on his shirt there every day. See, he's got 4 right now, right there.
The other topic we kind of skipped over, and I think it's fair to hone in on a C being the Avs' primary target. But do you guys have interest in picking up another defenseman at some point?
I do, but only because they don't seem sold on Calvin DeHaan at 6, and Keaton Middleton sucks, and John Ludwig, we don't even know if he's still alive. So that's another area, another obvious area where you could say, hey, if there's an opportunity here for us to go and to improve here, that's the easiest area. That a third pairing defenseman at the deadline, that's like catnip for GMs of contenders.
True.
I think that's where they're going. I think that's where they're going there, and then the same type of thing at forward or two. Depending on what's going to happen with Wood and Gabe, what's going to happen, which by then we'll have a better idea where this is heading. And I think that's is what they're going to be looking for. I don't think they're going to do major construction. I mean, again, I'm not trying to tell you I was right. I'm not trying to Monday morning quarterback it. We've been saying it since last year. They got to fix the goaltending or they're going nowhere. They did that.
Yep.
So for me, that's even better because it was done in December and not in March, at the trade deadline. So even better. But the Avs are a completely different team today than they were 2 months ago because of the goaltending.
Yeah, I think winning. It's safe to say a defenseman feels more like a luxury piece than a center would right now for the Avalanche, right? And look, there are a couple of factors that could change this up. One, we don't know where Oliver Shillington's injury is at, if he gets healthy, if he plays like he was at the end of there, it was starting to look like he was finally clicking with the Avs. If he looks good, maybe he's your extra defenseman that helps fill that role. And then on the forward side, obviously the Landeskog conversation continues to loom over everything for the Avs as it has for years. If there's a world where he gets healthy, let me ask you guys this, I guess. The Landy situation, at what point do the Avs kind of just have to put it off and say, okay, at very least he's not going to play for the regular season so he doesn't affect our cap?
For me, it would be the Four Nations. Like coming out of Four Nations, because at that point you're 2 or 3 weeks away from the deadline. I'd have to actually look at a calendar for specifics, but and you're in decision time. Everybody's going to be loading up. All the teams around them are going to be loading up. Dallas has the Tyler Seguin money that they can dip into. Winnipeg and Minnesota are going to be doing what they can, and they're all of these teams are going to be looking at the same types of roster ads that the Avalanche are. So you're in direct competition with these guys for these players. If you're still sitting around going, well, we've got to keep a couple million for Landy, and the Landy thing is also, if he were to come back, you have to move guys out to make the money work. Like there's some surgery that's going to have to be done. So that changes all of it. So if he's not back by the end of Four Nations, you just call it for the regular season and just say, money wise, we can't do it, Landy. I'm sorry, we can't hang like this anymore. They need time to be able to work on it and trying to figure it out. If Landy comes back 5 days before the deadline, that only honestly serves to screw them for trying to fix the holes that they still have.
Well, they got an understanding somewhere, somehow, right? It's respect from both sides, and they're gonna, I don't think it's gonna be like a spring chicken or coming out of a Cracker Jack box, or like this is. They have an understanding together. And like AJ said, is there targets in place? Is there there has to be to see and to how can we function through. It's one thing to be in the summer like they were last summer and in the fog, and then it's one thing to be at the start of the season and fog again, where now you probably have a better understanding a little bit of where this is going, as you're getting closer, to the Four Nations, to the trade deadline, to the playoffs. It's next thing you know, you're right there, so I think that they'll figure it out. They have an understanding. And again, I'm just reading Chad for a second. Randy's one of my favorites there. And here's what I'll say about Mikko Rantanen before you have to go for a pause, Rudo. But they're not trading Mikko Rantanen. And if they trade Mikko Rantanen, I will take my clothes off and run on Koufax from DNVR bar all the way to Ball Arena with no clothes and try to not get arrested. They're not trading Mikko Rantanen. It's not going to happen. It's all going to work out. You know what I mean? And how, I don't know. Joe's not nervous. Joe, in 01, waited till 30 minutes before July 1st free agency to sign his deal. So he's not blaming Mikko for it. Mikko, his last time around, missed some of training camp. So he's not a stressful dude. So this is all going to play itself out. It's not stressing his season. He's having another 100-point season, whatever it's going to be, like he was supposed to have. And Mikko's not going anywhere. And no, I wouldn't trade him for Brady Tkachuk. No. Mikko Rantanen is a 50-goal scorer. You keep him.
Yeah. If you're serious about trying to win a cup this season, you do not trade Mikko Rantanen for Brady Tkachuk. No. Brady Tkachuk has 20 less points than Mikko this year. Oh, but Mikko gets a bunch of take away every single empty net point from Mikko. He still has more points than Brady Tkachuk by a significant margin. Mikko's a better player. I'll leave it at that.
I agree.
We do have to take that break that Eric was talking about, though. And when the Avs do make a trade, if you want to go see that player in person, you got to get with Game Time. You can download the Game Time app today and join over 15 million people that use Game Time to get their tickets. And when you use code DNVR when you sign up, you'll get $20 off your first purchase, which you'll already find a great deal thanks to the Game Time Picks option. You can put in whatever your search terms are, and they'll filter out all the junk. They'll only show you the best seats for the best prices for what you want with Game Time. And it even goes beyond sports. You can get into concerts, theaters, movies, and more all through Game Time. So pretty much any ticketed event, Game Time has you covered. Go get with them, whether it's for the NFL playoffs or the NHL regular season or anything else in between. Excuse me. Join Game Time today and use that DNVR code to get $20 off. What time is it? It's Game Time.
Game Time.
Let's go. And once you've got your tickets, make sure you've got a way to get to wherever you're going, whether it be the stadium or the arena or otherwise. Go get yourself into the official vehicle of DNVR, which is Toyota. They have 17 different all-wheel drive vehicles, so on a day like today where it's extra snowy out, you know it can be reliable and still get you to where you want to go. And they have 16 different hybrids too, so when you're just commuting to work, you can save money on gas. All thanks to Toyota. They have a vehicle for everyone, so I highly recommend you go check out your local Toyota stores to find the right vehicle for you. You can get out there too, including but not limited to AutoNation, Toyota, Rapo, Centennial, Corin Toyota in Boulder, Groove Toyota in Littleton, Mountain States Toyota in Denver, Stevenson Toyota East in Aurora, and Stevenson Toyota West in Lakewood. Again, Toyota is the official vehicle of us here at DNVR, but they're also the official vehicle of the Colorado Avalanche. Third period of the DNVR Avalanche podcast. We can finally start getting into our lists a little bit here of potential targets for the Colorado Avalanche. And I want to start here. Give me, well, he's already got one to call out. What's up?
No, 1 second. Because I love Randy. He's one of my favorite on the chat. You know, I just want to, before we jump into those players, I just want to not prove my point, because I'm not trying to prove anything. When you're the Avalanche and you're a contender, you can't weaken yourself. It's irrelevant that your asset is a UFA. It's irrelevant because you can't weaken yourself and say, "Oh, I might lose them." You know what I mean? I might lose them, and I'll lose them for free. Well, then, yeah, but then you're weakening yourself to win the whole thing. These guys want to win the whole thing, so all of a sudden you can't let them go. Now, what I was trying to say earlier is, look at 2001. I don't want to hear there was no cap. It's all the same thing. It's the same thing. You had the best defenseman, Rob Blake. You had your best goalie, Patrick Waugh, and you had your best forward, Joe Sakic. All in the same boat. There was no thoughts. There was no... they could have all walked for free. They ended up winning. They all ended up staying. Then 30 minutes before, free agency started. It's triggers, it's points, it's pressure from the PA. Listen, I'm going to make you a promise here. Mikko Rantanen is not going anywhere. He's going to sign with the Avalanche before July 1st. How's that? And again, if not, I will run, like I said, from DNVR bar all the way to Ball Arena naked. That's not a good sight. So
yeah,
it's going to be all good.
I won't be worried about Mikko not being an Av until noon on July 1st, basically.
Yeah. Does this fan base already not remember how it went with Gabe Landeskog? He wasn't protected in the expansion draft. He was not signed. They signed him like 20 minutes before the deadline, before he became a free agent, before it was go time, and then they were like, okay, hey, we'll give him the 8th year. I would bet that the exact same thing happens, that Mikko Rantanen does not sign a deal till right up to the point where they say, okay, we have the ultimate bullet in the gun here. We can add the 8th year, and we will dare you to try and go and make up that money in the open market because he won't be able to do it. Oh, I'm going to go get $14 million somewhere else for 7 years. Great. We'll pay you $12.5 million over 8 years. You'll make the same money. You'll have an extra year of security, but your yearly number is going to be a little bit lower. Like the Avs, he's not going anywhere. He's staying.
Yep.
Yes.
And again,
And Randy, yes, Randy, I remember I was with Joe when he got the offer sheet. I was with him that morning at the gym working out because I used to work out. I didn't have that physique, back then. And then I was with Joe when he got that offer sheet. And they still matched it. They still figured they made a documentary about it. It's still going to be all right.
That's a story time story.
Yeah, definitely a story time story. If the Avs believe they can win the Cup this year, signing Mikko is future use problem.
Yeah.
Cross that bridge when you get there.
Yeah.
We do have to get into our real topic, though. I want you guys to give me what you think is the most realistic target for the Colorado Avalanche, either right now or at the trade deadline, however you want to call it. Who on your guys' lists do you think is most realistic to end up an Av?
Eric, do you want to say Jake Evans or should I?
Yeah, I was gonna give it to you. Go ahead. But you and me, we've been talking for weeks off air, about Jake Evans. So go ahead.
Yeah, I think Jake Evans. Obviously Jake Evans is having a career year. He's shooting 800% right now, and the point production has taken a huge leap. But he's everything that you want out of a depth guy, out of a depth center. He's giving you the offense that you want, but he's also a try-hard, and he wins face-offs, and he kills penalties. He's got 4 shorthanded points this year. His underlying numbers are really, really solid. Not on the penalty kill, mind you, but at even strength, he's very good defensively. He protects the house, and he plays. And you put him next to a Logan O'Connor on a third line, and other teams have a big problem on their hands, is what I'm saying. And if you look at his faceoff percentage, it's 50.3% on the season, which doesn't inspire a ton of confidence. But if you actually dig into it a little bit deeper, it goes up to 52% in the defensive zone, and weirdly, 61% in the offensive zone. So for some reason, Jake Evans
doesn't care about the neutral zone. Yeah,
44% on neutral zone faceoffs for Jake Evans. So that's the breakdown of by zone. And when we talk about which faceoffs do you really not care about, it's always the neutral zone ones. I do not care about one single neutral zone faceoff ever. But I do care about the ones in the offensive and defensive zones. And that's where Evans is really good at the defensive zone, and the salary is low enough. I know that he is I know that he's a pending UFA. He's going to get paid. The Avs very likely will not be able to keep him because he's having such a good year. It would be real hard to do. Also, Eric, I know you can speak to this better than I can, but relationships matter a lot in the NHL and making deals. Colorado and Montreal have been able to make a number of deals over the last couple of years with these front offices in place. It's pretty easy for them to find ground. There's going to be a trust there. There's going to be some actual built-up goodwill over 2 front offices that are comfortable with each other. Jake Evans, for me, should be number 1 guy on their board.
I agree, because we've been saying the same thing for a few weeks now. But you're right, and that's a great point with Ken Hughes and Jeff Gordon. Great dudes, by the way. BU hockey parents, not a big deal. So we stick together. I'm just kidding. But yeah, no, it's you're right. There is a certain level of comfort when you make deals, and sometimes a certain level of hatred too. Because some guys are like, I'm not dealing with that guy. So that wouldn't be a problem. I think he's a great fit. A guy like that. What we've been talking about the start of the show to now. I think it's a perfect dude. To give you a little bit of zip, a little bit of depth, a little bit more production. Than my guy Parker, which I love Parker. I think Parker would still be an asset, and it wouldn't change his game at all to what he's giving you right now. But I think this is a perfect target. Again, what's he going to command on the market? I don't know. I don't know. It's just, But you're talking about a rental. That's a rental. Yeah, you're right. Again, I'll put the Speedo on now again for that the Avs would not re-sign him. You know what I mean? If they make the trade for him. You know what I mean? So
Mechanically, he just makes too much sense, right? He's a perfect fit for every box the Avs need to check with a forward.
Eric,
Yes.
do you just want to wear a Speedo?
I know. I mean, that's just like, you know.
Is that what this is about, man? Are you just looking for a reason?
No, I just don't want to get arrested. So with a Speedo, you wouldn't get arrested. You know what I mean? So
He walked 3 miles yesterday, and he's just feeling like Superman.
yes, walked chair creek to the studio yesterday.
I walked a little over 2.5 miles a couple days ago with all the airports, and I have no desire to be in a Speedo at any point. Neither does anybody around me.
I love it.
Let the man live.
Let's stop dreaming about Speedos and start dreaming about dream targets for the Avs instead, so I can get any other image in my head, please. We have most realistic. I think we all agree. I'm with you guys, Jake Evans, on that one. Who's the reach? Who's the one that this is the guy that in fantasy land the Avs end up with, and it's going to help them win a cup?
Well, I think in fantasy land it's Brock Nelson.
Okay.
But I feel so confident that guy's going to be a Minnesota Wild by the end of the year that I almost don't even want to waste any more time with it. So I guess I'll go with the other like fantasy land, which I also think is realistic, and just say Yanni Gourde.
He's mine. Yeah.
He's the hard to play against big guy. So much postseason experience, and would thrive in that role. The one pockmark that you have against him is the faceoffs aren't very good. Despite his reputation, Yanni Gourde, one thing, he does not have faceoff splits like Jake Evans does. He's 48% in the neutral zone, but also 48% in the defensive zone. So, he at least takes them the same amount seriously, but Gourde, I think, would be that true defensive stopper that lines up, and we've seen him be so good in the previous postseasons in that exact role that I think behind right next to Jake Evans. It's like 1A, 1B for me. Those are the guys I'm starting with, but harder to fit because of money. Oh,
well, Gourde for me, he's he's that dog, right? There's a bone out there. He's a dog on a bone, and
yep.
Yeah, that's another Frenchie, which is a plus for me. Yes, with my guy Sammy and Jodra, and all of a sudden you got Yanni Gourde. Here's my take with Yanni Gourde. He might lose the draw, but he's such a big dog that he'll find the puck before he even gets out of the zone. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like he is just a absolute machine. He is just an absolute machine, and then he's just such a hard worker. That for me, the salary, obviously, it's a little bit, again, that's why it's far-fetched, right? You know what I mean? It's a little bit.
Okay,
Your phone has such a sick beat on that vibrate. Yeah.
Phone is on a table.
Oh my God! Yeah, it did that the other day too. That's why I don't know why my thing
it's okay. It was.
What does that do? Like I'm not tech savvy enough.
No, you're fine. We could hear the vibration through the mic, but it was just
Really?
playing like a sick beat. But it was very distracting.
No, but it's like it's on vibrate. Like
we can hear the vibration.
We know it's on vibration.
Was.
And guess what? It's a sign.
It's like an EDM.
It's a
show
sign. Yanni Gourde is coming. Yanni Gourde is coming. He was vibrating by the microphone there. He was like a Ouija board, like letting me know, like, yes, he's coming. No, I think, Gourde with the money, I don't know how you make that work, man, but whatever. That's why I'm not a capologist. I have no clue, and it's not my forte, and you guys know that. 2 + 2 is 7 for me, so I really have no idea. So, but
how you make
I just know that
is bone surgery, buddy. All right, the Avs have a playoff spot more or less secured by March. Someone's got to have some bone surgery.
Yeah, that's hey, Miles Wood, you're not coming back before the end of the regular season. Like, you got that rehab there. You don't, whatever you got to do to ensure it doesn't happen, gets you a start there. But yeah, Yanni Gourde rocks, and You look at the difference between Yanni Gourde and Jake Evans on the just in the underlying numbers real quick. You'll see. I know Jake Evans is beloved in Montreal and seems like he scores a shorthanded goal every 2 weeks, but his actual underlines are so bad on the PK. Yanni Gourde's are in every facet of the game. Yanni Gourde is excellent. He drives play. He suppresses play defensively. He's very good on the PK, and he's got that hard to play against, playoff experience where he's an animal, and that's why I really would love for him to be in Colorado.
The biggest thing for me is you're taking way less of a risk with Gourde, right? There's a pretty good proven track record of who that guy is. He's able to produce for you effectively on the offensive side. He's been proven as a solid playoff producer. He has that defensive acumen to his game too, but if you're looking to add offensive punch to realistically, I mean, you don't want this, but in a pinch, Gourde can probably even be your 2C if you needed him to be.
And he's one. That's a big one too.
So
right,
I like it. He was my dream pick too, so I'm good with that.
Can I give you just a really quick under the radar one before we move on to defensemen? I know that you got to do a whole thing, but I don't.
I just have to pause for 1 second, and then you can go.
Trent Frederick, okay? I just love Trent Frederick. With everything that's happened, I don't think that Boston's going to move him anymore. But as a pending UFA, again, you want to talk about big and physical and mean and sucks to play against. Trent Frederick is a beast, and having him in Colorado would make that forward core. I mean, you put that guy next to Logan O'Connor, girl, please. I am all about that one.
I love it.
We have a couple of names coming up in chat, including Morgan Frost, which is one that I was interested in last year. I'm a lot less interested this year. I think Frost is a very interesting guy if you're looking for maybe a more long-term option. But if you're trying to win a Stanley Cup right now, I think there's just a few too many holes in his game to be really looking at seriously.
Yeah, the Flyers have a couple of guys that you could make an interesting case. Like Noah Cates is another one that he's a really interesting player, but doesn't really fit. Joel Farabee is on the outs there. If he didn't have that contract, I would be pounding the table for the Avs to be the reclamation team for Joel Farabee. He's really good. Morgan Frost, with the addition and the commitment to Casey Middlestat, Morgan Frost just doesn't really fit anymore, where you don't need that guy in that. Is he a good player? Yes. Should you always be trying to get good players? Yes. But what he does well fits Colorado, but it's superfluous at this point. You don't need more of that. You need a little bit of a different mix. And Morgan Frost just would not provide that for you anymore.
It's very superfluous. It says superfluous for sure. What does that mean? I love it. SAT word today.
I was dropping them before we went live. All right, I'm in the zone. I read my dictionary.com word of the day.
Unnecessary extra.
Yeah.
Superfluous. All right. I'm writing it down.
You pronounce that one as well as you pronounce Nichushkin.
Nichushkin is very superfluous.
He is not. He's the opposite of superfluous.
Oh, whatever.
He might be superfluous if Landy comes back. That's why you trade him for JT Miller.
Okay, bro.
See, it all ties in.
Do we need to make a show of the defensive side of this? If the Avs are going out and getting someone, it's Brian Dumoulin, right?
For me, I mean, I'm afraid it's David Savard, but please let it be Brian Dumoulin instead.
Not David Savard.
But Brian Dumoulin and Marcus Pettersson, I kind of have in that same box.
Sure.
Very, very similar for me. That good defensive defenseman that would play on that left side could play next to Sam Malinsky. Of course, Sam Malinsky needs to not let this last 2-week slide of his be a 3-4 week slide and get back to how he was at the beginning of the year. Otherwise, I'm looking for 2 defensemen.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, same Dumoulin, Pettersson. I liked Pettersson back then when he was in Anaheim, his first year there. I don't know. I'm still going to throw it out. I felt like Calvin's played pretty good before the his stay there in the doghouse there, and and I wouldn't say he's in the doghouse. I'm just saying I think it's just a different fit with a different tangible from Middleton, right? That we won't get into because we get into it all the time, the three of us about it. But it's just
Because he sucks.
stop. He's
Sorry.
willing.
I mean, if
we'll
you want a new angle at it, definitively, Malinsky's numbers with DeHaan are pretty darn good.
One of the best
Yes,
third
that's
pairings in
what
the
I'm
league
trying to
together.
So
that's what I'm saying. So I don't think Calvin's going anywhere. That's just me. I think it's just doing something else right now, and then they're gonna go and protect themselves to get a little more depth, and like you said, the Dumoulins of the world or the Pettersson, if they can get to it, do they have the asset sets that it will cost, and do they want to get rid of those assets for that? But again, I'm convinced they're gonna, too good of a team now that they have goalies. They'll just add a little bit more to the depth up front on the back end, and it's just gonna end up on what's it gonna cost, right? And where are they stopping? Where are they drawing the hard line on the sand? For those types of assets, you're not talking about a 30-goal scorer here. You're talking about depth, right?
Yeah.
So,
a couple other names thrown out by the chat, ranging from Taylor Hall, Ryan Donato, Risto, Noah Cates.
Ristolainen is one that I've talked about on Twitter. It's funny because his reputation has always been a decent offensive producer who is horrible defensively, and now it's flipped. He's not producing anything offensively, but his defense has gotten good, and the size and physicality are still there. The problem in Colorado, and like quote unquote problem, is just that he's right-handed. He plays that right side. You end up a little heavy on the right with that, and then you would need help with the contract because $5 million for the next couple of years is not something that the Avs can do, given his role. They just couldn't do that. So
fair enough.
yeah, the contract is tough. But he has played a lot better than years back, right? You know what I mean? So he's putting himself back in the combo.
And he's finished.
To get moved.
The problem you run into, unfortunately, this time of year is there are a lot of teams that aren't out of it yet. I look at a Utah, someone like Alex Kerfoot, and I'm not saying the Avs should go get Alex Kerfoot. I don't think he's a good fit, but I think he is a piece that could be on the trade block come the trade deadline if Utah's out of it. But if Utah is in a playoff spot in March, they're probably not moving guys out like Kerfoot.
Yeah, I think Nick Bjugstad is that same, just to use Utah as an example. Nick Bjugstad is exactly the same. You're talking about as another center option. One more guy on that defense. Again, we don't know if this team wants to sell or what's going to happen. Will Borgen. I know he just got traded to the Rangers, but he's a pending UFA. He I think for like 3 years now, I have thought about Will Borgen as an Av, and just think his size, how hard-nosed he is, and that the offense would pop a little bit better in Colorado than it has elsewhere. That's another one where I would worry about the handedness later if that's the move that they wanted to make, because I really like Borgen.
Okay.
Guys have been traded twice in a year, so you never know. Or 3 times.
I think 4 or 5 is 5 the record. I forget how many times. I don't remember.
I got traded twice.
But dudes can get shuffled around, that's for sure. AJ, you apparently have the longest list of all time, so who else is on your list for potential targets?
I mean, I'm also just more of like a keeping an eye on. Just
sure.
I don't know what they're going to do.
It's January, not March.
Yeah. But JG Pageau, you're talking about another center option. He has one year left at $5 million. If the Islanders were willing to retain to get that down to 2.5, I'm a lot more interested. The problem is that his game has taken a real hit, and as that like ace defensive center anymore, not that guy that he has been in the past. But at $2.5 million, again, I'm a lot more interested in it. The Rangers, I'm kind of just looking at going, all right, which guy do you want to give me? Because if they really are making Keandre Miller available, that's what we were talking about earlier. That's a guy that you're looking at, not as a rental. You're looking at Keandre Miller as a big piece moving forward. But where does he fit? So, I think that and with Sam Girard's ability to play both left and right side, you don't worry about handedness as much because you bring Keandre Miller in and he takes the Josh Manson role for you in your top 4, and you go from there.
Sure.
All guys that I'm keeping an eye on. There's a few others too, but it doesn't matter. Like, who cares about Roddick Foxo?
You're really getting in the weeds at that point.
Yeah, it's mostly just like which team is willing to find the trade, like the price that fits the Avs for the depth forward that they're looking for. I do think that because Kiviranta's had the year that he's had, LOC's had the year that he's had, we are having there is kind of a luxury if the Avs could ever get their forward core healthy.
Yeah,
the Avs have that luxury of like Miles Wood may not even be in your playoff lineup even if he is healthy, kind of thing. Where some of these guys are getting the wing depth is actually really solid. Ivan's probably not even in your lineup by the time he returns from injury.
Yeah.
Like things have actually gone pretty well in terms of guys winning jobs for them this season and with solid play, earning more ice time and reducing your need for it. It's really just a center. You're looking at one centerpiece in your bottom six and then one third pairing defenseman. It's not a ton of work here. They did all the hard work.
I would say, just to get a little bit more specific, it's probably a 3C, not a bottom six. You probably need a bona fide 3C, not a 4C.
Yeah, that which is a little bit of the concern with Jake Evans in the Evans versus Yanni Gourde conversation. So
yep. But then assets and cap hit and a lot of other things come into play, and things get complicated.
Trying to do a deal with Ron Francis is a lot harder than trying to do a deal with Kent Hughes.
True.
For the Avs.
No doubt about that. As we have that injury stuff here, I mean, right now there's still a good number of pieces on the injury report. Come March, they could all be healthy. The Avs could have 6 more dudes injured. We don't know. So it's a bit hard to predict the future on the injury front for the Colorado Avalanche or any team, if we're honest. But it certainly, and I know this doesn't matter and this doesn't affect the future. You can just keep getting injured, but it sure feels like the Avs have paid a fair price on the injuries.
Yeah, no kidding. People keep tweeting this at me. Yes, if Ryan McLeod were available, yes. The Avalanche should be. He is the perfect long-term fit for the Avalanche at 3C. I would overpay to get Ryan McLeod in Colorado for the next 5 or 6 seasons. Yes, amazing. That would be wonderful.
Those guys don't tend to be available very often. So.
Well, who knows what Buffalo's doing, right? Like, it's just
it is Buffalo.
Throwing them anchors and letting them sink themselves, man. It's an incompetent organization. Doesn't know what's going on. Take advantage.
Hey, I'll take it. I'll take whatever it can get. So realistically, though, I don't think any of us expect the Avs to make too big of a splash come trade deadline, but we do expect them to do something.
A little depth on front, back, that's what I see.
The biggest surprise here, I will put on a Speedo and run down Colfax if they make no moves. They make no moves. It's my turn to run around in a Speedo.
Lots of Speedos getting thrown out today.
Speedo brothers.
All right. Well, on that note, we are going to wrap up today's show. We appreciate all y'all hanging out with us. Know you guys like the trade deadline, have fun, rumory, listy stuff. So we figured we'd take one of our rare off days as of late to talk about that a little bit. Of course, we'll be back tomorrow, pregame, postgame, watch along for the Avs game. Same thing with the day after. So we appreciate all y'all, and we will talk to you on the next episode of the DNVR Avalanche Podcast, brought to you by Bet365.
We all silly like the mayor.